Today's topic is standard test signals. Okay, so when you talk about standard test signals, what do you understand? The very first thing, what gets to your mind? Why the test signals to be standardized? Isn't it? Isn't it the first question you get? Or what is this test signal and how this is related to my system? That is the first thing. Okay. Second thing is how you can standardize a test signal. Okay, and what output you can estimate out of this standard test signal. Okay, so these are some general doubts or generic doubts that you get when you talk about standard test signals. Okay, so first thing is you have your actual input signal. Okay, you have your actual input signals, and when these input signals undergo a sudden variation. Okay, for example, you assume a car. So when some sudden, for example, you are driving at a velocity of, let us say, 100 kilometers per hour. Suddenly someone passes through the road, and then you have to make a sudden brake. Now how does this response, when you give a sudden input to the system, how does the system respond, is ultimately what you get. Okay, so in this example, in this car example, why the input has to be sudden? Because the condition is like that. And how does your system respond? It might cause an uneven response, that is, you don't get a proper response, okay, at times, or you get a response which is very dangerous. If a sudden brake is applied, if your car doesn't have an ABS system, what happens? It will rather slide. Okay, rather slide, because you are reducing the momentum to zero within a fraction of a second or something. So because of all these things, we require some standardized test signals. Okay, so these test signals, okay, could give you how your system responds with respect to time. Okay, it will give you the dynamic behavior of a system. Okay, and you can just compare. Okay, you can just compare with some application. For example, I've given a car application. Similarly, you just assume a robotic application. When a robot is moving with a velocity of, let us say, maybe like 10 millimeters per second. Okay, 10 millimeters per second. So in that case, what could you estimate? Like, for example, if it hits an object, okay, if it hits an object, how should the robot respond? How the robot response should be there? Can somebody tell how does the robot should respond?
So basically, it should undo the last action that it did, like move back or retract its arm or something.
Okay, first thing is it should stop. When it is hitting an object, it should stop there, because further hitting will cause a physical damage. Am I correct? Further movement can cause physical damage. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
For example, if the robot doesn't stop, keeps on moving, in that case, as I said, there would be physical damage. At the same time, the torque that is being produced by the motor, okay, will require more and more. Thereby, if your drive system, for example, your robot motor will be driven by a drive system, the drive system will consume lot of current, right? Because of this lot of consumption of current, what happens? It will lead to physical damage of the electronics board as well, right? So in this example also, the dynamic behavior of the system can be judged. If it is hitting an object, immediately it has to stop. Okay, or after stopping, what should be the control action is, it's up to us, we can program, right? So used on the standard test signals. Okay, there are some standard test signals which are accepted worldwide and which are generally used for testing. Okay, for example, you take a car impact test, which is the very best example. So car's body, mass, and with passengers which are dead weights, is subjected to certain velocity, go and hit an object which is like your concrete wall or something. After that, the deformations are estimated. Am I correct? These are like general crash test. They call it as crash test. Okay, which is done with a standard test signal only, because your car's velocity has to be reached to the standardized value. So similarly, in robotic control systems or robots, you have standard test signals that are very much essential for a robot to understand its dynamic behavior. Okay, not the static behavior. Static behavior is another counterpart, but dynamic behavior is more required because all your robots will have movements. Basically, there will be some velocity, right? So, and you have certain test signals, like for example, as shown in the slide, a standard test signal of sinusoidal signal. What is this sinusoidal signal? Under continuous variation, not only just the what do you call impulsive inputs or maybe step inputs or whatever it is, we have to understand the system that has to work under a sinusoidal signal. For example, sinusoidal signal, as you take it, the amplitude will continuously vary with respect to time. So such signals also at times they are considered as standard test signals, right? So what is this standard test signal? Okay, so in standard test signal you have something called as impulse. Impulse is more considered as a very standardized signal because it's a sudden shock. Okay, it's a sudden shock. What is this sudden shock? That means rate of change of your output is A at a time t. You just have a look of this particular figure. At time t is equal to 0. Okay, at a time t is equal to 0, this is the time factor. Then at a time t is equal to 0, the amplitude of the thing is raising to A. Amplitude is raising to A, which is mentioned here. If time t is equal to 0, amplitude is raising to A. If time is a non-zero value, for example, for rest of the times, okay, the rest of the times, okay, which is a non-zero value, it is equal to 0. The output is equal to 0. So it will rest, it will be at 0. So if A is equal to 1, okay, if A is equal to 1, that is called as unit impulse. Okay, it's a unit impulse signal, right? It's a unit impulse signal. Similarly, if A is equal to some n, that's just an impulse signal. Can you tell when and where such sort of signal can be applied in robotics? Where the impulse signal is required to test. For example, you take a humanoid robot. Okay, if the balance is out, because it's a bipedal robot, so if the balance is out, what happens? Suddenly it will fall. Suddenly it will fall. It's an instantaneous output, instantaneous response. Okay, so when it falls, what is the impact on the robot surface? It is basically an impulse. It will go and hit the floor, it will go and hit the surface, right? So this signal can be used to test such conditions. Okay, as I said, this sort of signals can be used to test such conditions. Similarly, in real-time example, you have something like accident. Okay, an accident. So accident will happen within a short period of time. Go and hit. Okay, go and hit. So such a type of situations also can be analyzed with impulse signal. That means going and hitting will happen within a fraction of second. Okay, within a fraction of second it will happen. So such sort of conditions can also be tested. So upon test, what will you get? You will get an output. How does the system has responded? Okay, earlier you can just have a look. Earlier for cars, okay, for cars especially, I will take the example of an ambassador car. Okay, what is the bumper type? Bumper means the front end part. It is made out of a very rigid metal, generally stainless steel, or maybe for look and aesthetic look they used to put some typical iron bar. Okay, what is the problem with that? The problem with such sort of system is it will not absorb all the impact. Okay, it will not absorb the impact that is caused because of hit. That is the reason there will be huge impact on the internal components of the car. For example, if a driver is there, the driver has more impact. He'll go hit the steering, or he'll go hit the front dashboard or somewhere. Okay, so there is no safety there. Similarly, the current generation cars, they use a bumper which is made out of synthetic material. Okay, synthetic material, which is basically glass woven fiber, okay, which is a composite, right? When the impact happens, definitely it will break. Okay, definitely the front bumper part will break, thereby it will absorb lot of impact. Okay, lot of impact that is caused because of this accident. Okay, so that's the significance of this signal. Okay, is that okay, guys? Like, do you understand what is impulsive thing and why it should be required?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you just have a look. As I was taking the example of an accident, see this particular set, okay, this particular set, okay, this particular set in the signal, which is a very short duration signal. You just take out this window. So this window has a very short signal, okay, very short signal. Okay, similarly this also, this region is also very short. Okay, this region is also very short. Such responses, so this is your input, and for your input this is your system's response. Okay, this is your input signal, this is your output that is obtained as a response, both the things. This is for system 1, this is for system 2. Okay, right? So that is how the output will be there. Now we have a next signal which is also very important. We call it as a step signal. Okay, why step signal? Why step signal? Okay, okay, this is also a good example where you have a sudden change. Okay, you have a sudden change in the actuation signal. Okay, the best example is you have, instead of a continuous control system, you have an on and off control system. Okay, you have an on and off control system. The best example is your air conditioning unit. Air conditioning unit will not control based on a continuous control, rather it would control based on and off. That means if the temperature is less than some x degrees, your compressor should pump the coolant so that there will be a reduction in temperature. Once it reaches the set point, there will be a the controller will give a signal to the compressor to stop pumping the coolant. Okay, so where can you apply this sort of test signals in robot or robotics? Any idea where do you apply such sort of test signals in robots? Okay, so as I said, okay, so your impact has happened, the robot has gone hit the surface. After that, it should give a signal that the hit has happened to the controller. So what controller will take? Controller will give a signal to a relay unit. So this relay unit is basically a step output. It's basically a step output. Okay, that means the relays will stop all the things, all the input supplies to the motors. Okay, am I clear? Impact and response. Generally, the controller will directly control the motor through a continuous control. But if the hit happens, okay, so there will be a relay. Relay will actually stop the motor. That means it is stopping the supply unit or the supply part of the motor. It is not exactly controlling the motor, but it will stop. So such sort of things are required when you face a hit. Okay, so for the hit testing, okay, for the impact testing, how the system should respond can be determined by this standard test signal, which is a step signal. Okay, which is a step signal. Here u of t is basically the signal part, okay, or the signal that varies with respect to time. If time t is greater than 0, if time t is greater than 0, that means for all the things which are above 0 towards this side will be a factor called as a, the amplitude. Okay, the amplitude which is a here. In rest of all the conditions, if time t is less than 0, that means towards this side, okay, the condition will remain 0. Okay, the value of the amplitude a is equal to 0. Okay, if this is unity, that is called as a unit step response. Okay, or a unit step signal. Okay, the output what we obtain is called as step response. The input is basically a step signal. You understand this? Okay. So then we'll move on to the next signal, which is ramp. Okay, which is ramp. What do you understand by a ramp signal? Why it is very much required? Why ramp signals are preferred?
So it's a signal that linearly increases.
Okay.
So basically, in robots moving, you can't start it like at the max speed, right? So you have to gradually accelerate it. In
Okay.
those cases,
Okay. But why this is called as a test signal? Okay, tell me.
so that we know how the like when we give a gradual signal, how the system would like what would be the output. To understand that, we use a standard test signal of ramp.
Okay. Right. So, and I think one of your friend has Inzamam has given some good example. So it is basically used to test velocity. Velocity is a very good example. At the same time, it can be used to test acceleration. Okay, it can be used to test acceleration, right? So, right. I'll give you some good examples for this ramp as a test signal. Okay. So ramp is basically a continuous linear time variant system. Linear continuous time variant output. Okay. For time t is equal to 0, it is 0. Time t is equal to 1, it is 1. I mean, there might be some factor. Time 2, it is 2. Okay. So for time t 3, it is 3. For time 4, it is 4, or any factor. Okay. Generally, the slope will be uniform. The slope will be uniform. Okay. So if you have x degrees or x value in time domain or time axis, you have same y in the amplitude axis, right? So there will be a uniform slope. Okay, the slope is uniform throughout the signal. Okay, so the ramp can be considered as, which is r of t, which is a time variant signal, is at. At is basically what? A times of t. Okay, it's always a multiple of t. For t greater than or equal to 0, as I said, at a time t is equal to 0, it is 0. If the value increases further, what happens? Okay, if the value increases further, the value also will vary with respect to time, that is at. Okay, at. It is always a factor of time. Okay, similarly, at a time t is less than 0, it is 0. Okay, can you tell a good example for ramp signal? A ramp signal. Okay, for example, you take a rocket which has to be launched in its orbit. Okay, which has to be launched in its orbit. So the thing is, how will you manage the acceleration? Any idea how will you manage the acceleration? No idea. Okay, so this is the required orbit which it has to reach. Okay, am I clear with this example? Is this clear for you, a rocket example? So first stage, so okay, this is the first stage. Stage 1 separation happens at this point. Stage 2 separation happens at this particular point, let us say. Okay, this point, right? Stage 2 separation happens. This is stage 1, this is stage 2, and this is your ultimate orbit. Okay, so stage 1, it has to follow certain acceleration, let us say a. Stage 2, it has to follow lesser acceleration, that is some a1. Stage 3, it has to follow lesser acceleration a3. So at stage 1, okay, it is reaching or it is moving away from the earth's position or the earth's surface. Okay, it requires lot of what do you call, thrust to reach the stage 1, because it is moving away from the gravity. Okay, so gravitational impact will be there. At stage 2, the gravitational impact g is equal to just 0, but still it requires certain velocity to reach the, or acceleration to reach the stage 3, because that is the final orbit. Okay, so g has become 0 at stage 2. That means at stage 2 you require lesser acceleration to reach stage 3. Is this thing clear? At stage
Yes, sir.
1, it requires lesser acceleration. So your response is varying, okay, with respect to time. First thing is your response is varying with respect to time. At a time at stage 1, it has a fixed response. It has to follow the same velocity, because any shortfall of acceleration will cause lot of problems. The first problem is, because it is going against gravity, it might fall its altitude, right? Any shortfall of this particular acceleration will create fall in the altitude, right? Similarly, your robot, okay, your robot has to move from point A to point B. Let us say this is point A and this is point B, right? The biggest thing is, from let us say home position, this is the home position. From home to A position, it requires some velocity or acceleration, let us say a1, and a2 is required for B. Okay, from home to A position there are lots of obstacles, so it moves with a lesser acceleration, okay, with a lesser acceleration and ultimately lesser velocity. From A to B there are very few obstacles, it will move with a higher velocity, ultimately higher acceleration a2, right, higher acceleration a2. Okay, so the output would be something like this. It will have very slow variance with respect to time, okay, but here there will be a sharp variance, okay, there will be a sharp variance. Okay, so the input versus the output will have always some deviations that I have shown in this graph. Clear? So your input is something like this, which is acceleration, but your output response is like this. Why always there will be some variation? Can you give a few examples where there will be always a deviation? For example, in this rocket example, I will tell you why there would be a deviation. Okay, so the response would be something like this. Not exactly, it won't follow a linear path, but your input will be should be always linear. Okay, because your response will vary because of certain factors. Can you tell few factors? First thing is air velocity or the air drag. If the air drag is more, the actual altitude that has been reached and the estimated altitude will vary. Air drag will be there. Till what level you have air drag? Till it reaches outside the atmosphere of the earth. Till that time you have air drag. After that you don't have any air drag, right? Till there you have to give a lot of input, lot of thrust in order to move away. Okay, it is carrying certain payload. What is the payload? The robot's body itself it's a payload for the rocket. The rocket's body itself is the payload for the rocket. Since the stage 1 stage 2 separation happens, there is a reduction in mass. Since the mass is reduced, what happens? You have a good response. Okay, more mass you have some deviated response, less mass you have a better response. Okay, similarly in robot also I will tell you. From from home to point A, it is moving without load. From point A it has picked some load and it has to move to point B. Then your response will actually slow down. Okay, so this is about a standard test signal, which is a ramp signal, and how the system will respond, right? Okay, some parabolic signals. Okay, I think what is a parabolic signal? How it is very much required for any system to understand what is a parabolic response or parabolic input. Any idea? Any idea? Please respond. Like, what is the parabolic signal and how it is very much required for considering your output or maybe managing your output? Any idea? What is a parabola? Because any output that follows, okay, any output that follows a thing which is 80 square by 2 if time value is greater than 0 is called as a parabolic signal. Can you tell me where parabolic response is required? Example where your parabolic response is required. Any system.
Acceleration of motors.
Acceleration of motors, then no, I am asking where your input signal itself is parabolic.
Not sure, sir.
Any rough idea? Okay, you have told it's an acceleration function. True. Acceleration function is what is displacement? Displacement, if it is yes, what is acceleration and what is velocity?
That would be first derivative, and acceleration would be second derivative.
Second derivative. Okay, second derivative, right? So you can just check. It's an acceleration function because the time value is actually squared. The time value is actually squared because it's a second derivative, right? It's a second derivative. So the best example for acceleration function is not exactly the ramp, but it is a parabolic signal in real time signal. Okay, so it will vary with respect to time to the saturation point. This is the saturation point, and once it reaches, it will move with a constant velocity, more or less. Okay, so such signals are called as a parabolic signal. Okay, in lot of examples, I'll take a bridge example. Okay, a bridge example. Your tension, okay, your tension is directly proportional to the vibration. Okay, your tension is directly proportional to the vibration. What is vibration? Is basically rate of change of displacement only, right? Rate of change of displacement in one particular axis, right? So once you start increasing the tension, okay, which is varying with respect to time, at certain factor, okay, at certain saturation point, at a time t is equal to Tn, which is the saturation point, you get a fixed non-vibrating cable bridge. Okay, non-vibrating cable bridge. So this signal is more or less used in places where your acceleration is very much plays a prominent role, especially in robotics. Okay, now what is the relation between this standard test signals? Okay, impulse. Okay, impulse, it is a and 0 at a time t is equal to 0 and time t is equal to not equal to 0. Similarly, step is a, if time greater than 0, time less than 0, it is 0. At, which is ramp, when time t is greater than 0, it will be at. If it is less than this thing, it is 0. Okay, basically what is happening at all the places? It is basically when you derivate this parabolic function, you will get a ramp. Derivation of ramp is step. Okay, derivation of this is basically your unit impulse, right? When you apply derivation, you will get the actual from parabolic to impulse. When you integrate it, you will get the original signal. Okay, this is the relation between your standard test signals. To do is, we are going to apply a Laplace transformation. Why Laplace transformation? Because we are planning to do it in a S domain, right? What is S domain? It's an imaginary domain. It doesn't have a significance, but why you are bringing everything into an imaginary domain? Reason is it becomes very easy to solve the problems. If it is time domain, again time will play a prominent role. If it is in frequency domain, it is very tough to understand, right? So when you apply a Laplace transformation to a signal, which is del of t is when it is applied, or maybe s of t, people used to call in multiple ways, but I used to call it as del of t. So Laplace transformation of del of t is del of s, okay, which is a, just keep this thing in mind. Del of t or del of s is ultimately a. Similarly, step response u of t is Laplace transformation of u of t, that is u of s, which is a by s. A by s. So these are some fundamental Laplace transformations where you can use these standard signals, impulse, step, ramp, and whatever. Then you can obtain your output. Okay, I'll anyways share a chart of Laplace transformation conversion, so you can have a go through. Similarly, you have a transfer function of your ramp signal, which is a of at. Okay, when you apply Laplace transformation to r of t, which is r of s, you will get a by s square. Okay, a by s square. For parabolic function, Laplace transformation of p of t is p of s, which is 2a by s cube. 2a by s cube. Okay, so that's all about the Laplace transformation. It is very fundamental part, so I didn't consider much upon that. Okay, what is time response? What is time response? Okay, I'll give a good example. So your system is assumed to be your robot. Your system is assumed to be your robot. Your robot, you are giving a step input. How does your system respond? System response depends upon what factors? By the system itself. Okay, by the system itself. System will have well-defined characteristics. So if you give n number of times the same input, the system should behave the same way. Such systems are called as ideal systems. Ideal systems. Okay. So why these ideal systems doesn't exist? Because you have because they are working in an environment, so a lot of factors will impact. So ideal systems will never exist. Okay. So let us assume this robot. It is made out of, let us say, 5 links, then 4 degree of freedom. Okay. So you are giving a step input to one robot. You are giving step input to one robot, which is having the following parameters. Okay. Let us say I am giving the step input to link 1, L1, which is basically handled by motor M1. Okay. Step input I have given. So what is the response of it? It will be something like this. Okay. But since it is a motor, I am giving a step input to a motor. So it's basically switching on a motor. Okay. So it will start accelerating. From 0, and let us assume this is t, and it will reach the maximum torque, or maybe let us say I am just assuming its torque. Okay. So it will reach the maximum torque after certain duration. After that it will retain the torque. Okay. So the point where it starts ending is called as your saturation. Right. So this is your time response. This is your time response. That means it will vary its amplitude with respect to time. If you just bifurcate it into individual components, it has got 1, 2, 3, 4, n number of components within the given period of time. It will continuously vary and it will reaches a saturation point, which is the maximum point. Why there is a huge delay from time t0 to tn, let us say t0 to tn? Because there are factors which will affect its response. Example, the mass. Mass is one factor that will impact its movement, because mass will not allow to reach the maximum torque, because there is a correlation between mass and torque. More the mass, more the torque is required. Less the mass, lesser will be the torque requirements. Okay. Since it is having a fixed mass m, okay, which cannot be varied, okay, so it requires certain torque t instantaneously. Here input is very instantaneous, output will not be very instantaneous. Reason is the factor called as mass. This is the example. You understand this? Okay. Similarly, assume a signal which is an impulse signal. You have given an impulse signal, right? Impulse signal to the same motor. You have given the same impulse signal to the motor. how it should respond. Okay, it should respond in this fashion. Okay, let us assume this is your impulse signal that is given. Let us say I'll just show it separately, not on the axis. This is the impulse signal. Okay, at a time t1 you have given an impulse of n. Okay, how the system should respond. Okay, the thing is, the response of the system will be something like this. Again, why there is a duration, and again here also the factor is mass. Mass is the factor which will affect its variance. Okay, it's a change, it's a response, right? It's response. Okay, so in both the cases we have seen two responses. One is a steady state response. The very first one, if I am giving a step input, the output whatever you obtain is called as a steady state response, which is called as SS, steady state response. You are giving a fixed amplitude signal. That means your amplitude of the input will not vary, right? Amplitude of the input will not vary. So the output whatever that is obtained is called as steady state response. I'll give you one good example. How many of you have worked with stepper motors or servo motors? Any typical motor?
So we had it in the first lab.
But did you work on it by any chance? Maybe in your major project?
Sir, servos in RC boats.
Servos in RC boats. Okay.
Boat.
RC, which plane you have made? RC copter, whatever.
Boat, sir, boat.
Robots. Okay. Remote controlled boats. Okay.
Boat. Ship.
Okay, boat.
That.
Got it. What is the purpose of that there?
To change the direction of the boat, we can use a servo motor, sir.
Okay. Basically, at the bottom part, you have made some flapper sort of arrangement, control its
Yes, sir.
direction.
Yes, sir.
The thruster
Yes,
motors
sir.
will give continuous thrust. In order to change the direction, you might have used some RC thing and all. Okay. What is the problem with servos or maybe your steppers? Biggest problem? You are giving an angle of, let us say, theta. You are giving some angle. Okay, you are giving an angle theta. Will the same output you will obtain as theta? See, your angle is fixed. Theta is the angle. Theta is equal to 20 degrees. Will you get the same 20 degrees as the output even though it's a servo motor? No, you will not get 20 instantaneously. It will reach some value which is non-20, so it will adjust it to 20. Then after some time you will get a static signal. Your output will be something like this. Am I correct? The same graph which is shown here. Okay, that is because it requires certain torque called as stall torque. In case of servos or in case of your steppers, especially steppers do have a lot of stall torque. This torque will not allow it to move to a prescribed angle instantaneously. Okay, so your response, even though you have given a steady signal, standard signal, the output response also will vary within a fraction of a second or maybe less than that. But when it comes to impulse response, you are giving a sudden change. Okay, sudden changes, let us say stopping your robot. Will it stop? No, immediately it will not stop. There will be some time duration as shown in this figure. So this is the maximum point, then it will go to the minimum point. Okay, the time duration is t in this case. This window will vary with respect to time over a period of given time from t1 to t2, right? Is this thing clear? So such a response is called as transient response. You are giving a sudden input and observing the system, that's called as a transient response. All your impact tests are transient in nature. All your acceleration systems, testing, vehicle testing, reaching the maximum altitude, reaching the maximum velocity, stabilizing the robot on one leg, all these things are steady state responses. You are giving a signal, how the system will balance. Okay. Transient response is you are suddenly giving a very highly time variant signal. Okay. Impulse is nothing but it happens within a fraction of a second, but your output will be measured. Such output is called as, or such response is called as transient response. There is a transition, and hence the name transient response. The input is steady, that means it's a steady state response. Why these two responses has to be studied? Why these two responses? In the previous examples also I have mentioned very clearly. So if it is a transient response, okay, your system behavior at instantaneous of time can be obtained. Okay, the best example where transient response is very crucial is safety. In cars you might be seen with airbags. Okay, airbags, what is the chemical that is present in that? Any idea? Any idea? Have you heard the chemical name sodium azide? Sodium azide. Okay.
No, sir.
So when there is an impact, there will be a small cylinder in which this chemical is preserved. When you are giving an impulse response to it, impulse input to it, let us say crash. Okay, crash. This sodium azide will be converted to nitrogen gas. Within a fraction of a second, it will converted to nitrogen gas. When a pressurized nitrogen gas is filling into a bag, it will get popped up. Okay, it gets popped up. Okay, sodium is always a dangerous chemical. When it reacts with water, it will give very adverse effects. At the same time, when it is reacting with something like impact, it will give an adverse effect of releasing nitrogen instantaneously. When you fill this nitrogen in a bag, that bag would save your life. That is called as impulse response. Okay, so in robotics also you have lot of applications. Okay, gripper safety. What is this gripper safety? So grippers do grip very fragile objects like let us say glasses, let us say obstacles which are susceptible to damage, or which damages very quickly. For example, silicon wafers. Have you heard this term, silicon wafer, which is present in your almost all microcontrollers as your ALU, arithmetic and logic unit? That's the silicon part. Okay, this silicon chip, when it is gripped by a robot, it should not leave any impressions. It should not grip it very tightly. It should not grip the silicon wafer very rigidly. It will break. Such applications, if it, for example, if it is handling with a high velocity, generally high velocities it won't handle, but let us say your production rate is increased and it has to handle the thing at a higher velocity. Okay, one silicon wafer droppage will cost a lot. Similarly, one glass droppage will cause a lot. So instantaneous gripping should be there for such sort of systems. That is possible only with a impulse input. Okay, impulse input. Any doubts till now? Okay, so why this time response control is required? Why this time response control is required? So time response control is required when a system is changed from rest to equilibrium. Rest to equilibrium. What is this equilibrium? Equilibrium need not to be a stable condition where the velocity is zero. It can maintain a constant velocity. Even that is also called as state of equilibrium. Okay. So you can measure what is steady state response and what is transient response very clearly. Okay, so that is the reason why people go with time response of the system. Okay, best example I will tell you, generally these mileage oriented cars, okay, mileage oriented cars, they will maintain a constant airflow and constant fuel consumption. Have you heard this constant airflow, constant fuel flow? That's called as a ratio controller. Okay, so in those systems, if you study over a period of time, you can understand how much mileage with how much air as an input and how much volume of fuel as an input that is being taken by the car system, right? So steady state response is required when you are giving an input and then you have to measure it. Okay. So time response of any robotic control system or a simple control system depends upon the stability of poles. What is this poles? Okay, let us talk this thing in the next chapter. It is sufficient to analyze the transient response using a step input. You can measure a step input. Okay, with that step input also you can get a transient response. Okay, rather than a impulse input, right? And steady state response depends upon the system dynamics and input quantity. What is this steady state response? How does it input depends upon the system dynamics? I said your rocket as a best example. You are giving a constant acceleration. Okay, the system dynamics has changed because the mass is being reduced, right? That is the system dynamic. So it is always examined using the test signals by final value theorem. There is one theorem called as final value theorem. Okay, that I'll explain in the next chapter because it's a part of the next chapter. Okay, any other doubts till now?